traveling for its happiness cannot be taken away from me. Traveling is that one activity you can enjoy by yourself, although you are going in group. When you visit a place during the travel, you are able to have a moment of your own, contemplating, appreciating, even taking a piece for your memory. You will forget all the loads in your life. You will promise to yourself that you will seize the moment because you know the present time you're having will soon be taken away right after you leave the place. The first country that I traveled to was the Netherlands. Taken place in 2013, Mom and I took off for a 10-day trip to the Netherlands, France, Switzerland, and Italy. It was my first time taking a midnight flight to another country. We spent the evening at Soekarno-Hatta Airport until we went on board. Here's the thing about airports. I have a peculiar obsession with airports in general. I love how airports are always moving. Even when the restaurants and duty-free stores are closed inside the building, there are always airplanes landing on the runway. People walk fast, pacing back and forth across the check-in stations. People move from one boarding gate to another, leaving for a destination and not being seen until days later. I love airports and the way I love cities, for its dynamic and livelihood. I might also consider putting airports as a miniatures of cities, only they are packed under one roof. I sometimes play a guessing game by myself. I settle on one person that I look at the airport and examine them. I picture this perfect background story on the person, as though I know them my whole life. Oh, the guy in the black suit could be traveling for his business trip. He brings one small suitcase, so he might come back in short time. The young lady in white hoodie and gray scarf might catch up the same flight as I do because she has to go back to her campus after days of spring break. That foreign couple in matching belly shirt might need to catch up on the flight because they have to go back to their routine after a wholesome honeymoon by the beach. I create a whole new stories in my head just to help me coping with boredom of waiting boarding time. Back to my West Europe trip in 2013, we landed at Schiphol after spending a transit trip to Abu Dhabi. We arrived in the afternoon and went straight for a trip to Volendam. Mom and I dressed in traditional Dutch clothing. After going to Volendam, we headed to downtown Amsterdam for a quick city tour by boat. We got into a tour boat and explored the canals in the city. I could not recall if it was an actual human tour guide who was speaking through the boat speaker or it was a recorded tape. However, throughout the journey, we were accompanied by knowledge about the canals and how every single building and houses in Amsterdam look similar. I fall in love with transit trips. I fall in love with sitting for a long drive by the highway, gazing through the grasses of yellow and green guarding our way. I love sitting at the window seat and just gazing towards the scenery. I cannot live without a pair of headsets and I actually pack myself with a notebook whenever I travel. On the road, I listen to music and write. Once our tour is over, I reminisce in every moment by listening to the music I listened to during the trip. Aside music, riding on the road makes me feel alive. I write about anything. If I could select one favorite transit trip, I would choose the transit trip from the Netherlands to France. We spent approximately 8 hours on the highway and had 3 rest area stops. It was my favorite transit trip because it was my first one. I had never experienced a long land trip like this before, so it was something that really caught my memory. We rode on a local coach bus provided by the tour package. The bus driver turned out to be the owner of the bus rental service. He was from Belgium, but he was able to operate the bus all the way across Europe. The most unique thing I found from the coach bus was the fact that the coach was named after the owner's son. I spent the trip looking out the window and being fascinated by the windmills and haystacks. If the air conditioner coldness did not serve me any justice, I would stick my head on the warmth of the window, picturing as though I was filming for an indie music video while gazing at the scenery. I also listened to the songs in my old BlackBerry Gemini. I also did not forget to bring my diary. Throughout the trip, I kept my diary and promised myself to write every single event that happened during the travel. We also stopped by several rest areas to get some gas and some food. It was 2013 and I was overly obsessed with young adult novels back then. I could spend my time alone reading John Green by the couch in several different sitting positions per minute. I sometimes pictured myself being involved in the scenes depicted inside a book, becoming one of those teenagers who spend their night barging into a convenience store and having their whole lives ahead of them. I pretended that I was grabbing some meals for a journey to another city because I have been living in a small town my whole life and needed to get out of it. Another thing that I remember from the West Europe tour was what had occurred in Italy. In Italy, we went to the Colosseum and took pictures there. The Colosseum was under renovation, so we were not able to enter the amphitheater. There were horse carriage for rentals, but because of the short duration we had, no one took any horse carriage for a ride around the area. We also went to the Trevi Fountain. The Trevi Fountain was adorned with statues from mythology and Roman history. According to the legend, if we toss one coin into the fountain, we will travel back to Italy again. If we toss 2 coins, our wishes and dreams would be granted. If we tossed 3 coins, we would end up falling in love with an Italian. I was pretty skeptical about these things, however, I tried my luck by tossing 2 coins into the fountain. From Rome, we headed to Pisa to visit the Leaning Tower. We took eye-tracking photographs by raising our fingertip to meet the Pisa Tower roof. So in the picture, we would appear like giants who were trying to grasp the tower from the ground. The day had reached evening and it was time for dinner. The tour guide had already booked a reservation at a Chinese restaurant nearby. However, due to the bus height limit that was set at the tunnel that was placed on the road we were heading, the bus driver or owner could not risk any damage. So we decided to walk by foot to the restaurant. It took about an hour to reach the restaurant and we were extremely exhausted and starving. Along the road, somebody played Indonesian songs from dangdut to pop and we ended up singing along throughout the journey. In every country I visited, I always did what I did at the airport. While heading to the next destination by foot, I would play guess at each passerby's life. I would guess where they were heading and the kind of life they were having. I pictured a woman in business attire was about to head home to her cozy apartment. Her boyfriend would wait for her by the door, asking how she was doing while preparing for dinner. I saw an old man with his dog enjoying an ice cream in Paris. The only company he had was that golden retriever that was always by his side. Both of them glanced at the world with calming eyes and rapid heartbeats, telling each other that life would be okay if we had each other. And they did. Sometimes I wish I could travel back in time just to relive each journey for the sake of its rookie sensation. But at the same time, I do not want moments to be repeated because the feeling will not be the same as it was the first time. Honestly, I miss the wanderess that I was during the early 2010s. The only thoughts in my head were the kind of story I could imagine from the places I was in. To be honest, I have been trying to be present again during trips, not only making up stories of passerby but also enjoying every single moment and fun. But above all, I feel grateful for the experiences I have with traveling, for making me feel alive and giving me hopes that there are still good things in life, in the past, in the present, and the future.